All right, team, so let's get into some of the basics. First thing we're going to do is talk about user management. So who is a user? Because Salesforce is a cloud-based software, everyone who uses it is a user. So that's from me as an administrator to a salesperson to a sales manager, general manager, CEO of the company, president of the company, the accounting team, the service team. The list could go on and on based on how your organization uses Salesforce. One of the most important things is user management. Because if you think of it, you're working with an organization and access you have access to all of their data as the administrator. And not everyone in the organization needs the same level of access as you do. A sales rep doesn't need the same level of access. They don't need the same view when they log in as a manager. A manager doesn't need the same access or the same view of Salesforce as someone on the accounting team. That's one of the reasons why user management is important, because it helps you to be a guardian over the data. So we're going to do a couple of things to kind of bring that full circle for you. The first thing I want you guys to do is create your own org. Org is short for organization. Basically, you're going to create your own fictitious Salesforce um, platform here on Trailhead so that you can use it for future modules, just for testing and training. I may do a video and tell you, hey, go into your org and try this out. So how you do that, once you logged into Trailhead, come over to your profile picture and click on it. And then click on hands-on orgs. As you can see, I have multiples because I may have created them for different reasons, or as you take different modules, they'll tell you, hey, use one of your existing playgrounds or create a new playground for this module, okay? But what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create one now. So go ahead and click on Create Playground. And they're going to always give you some little weird or unique name for your playground. You actually, let's see, click out of here. Oops. You actually can change it to anything, but I'm just going to keep this little cute name, Resilient Fox Playground. Create it. And it will take a few minutes for it to upload. While we wait for that, I want to take a look at the actual module. And a link to this module will be in the description of the video. So here is the link that you'll get. So while we're waiting on our org to be developed over here, I just want to talk about a high level about this module. And you can, of course, come back in and make changes, edits, etc. and complete it for yourself. The major thing I want to take a look at are profiles and roles. Okay? Profiles and roles. So let's see what a profile is. A profile determines what a user can do in Salesforce. They come with a set of permissions that grant access to particular objects, fields, tabs, and records. Each user can only have one profile. Select profiles based on a user's job function. The standard user profile is the choice of most users. Don't give a user a profile with more access than the user needs to do their job. You can grant access to more items the users need with a permission set. Roles. Roles determine what users can see in Salesforce based on where they are located in the role hierarchy. Users at the top of the hierarchy can see all data owned by users below them. Users at lower levels can't see data owned by users above them or in other branches unless sharing rules grant them access. Roles are optional, but each user can only have one. So some of these things like permission sets, and granting additional access and sharing rules, we'll get into on another day. But just at a high level, I want you to understand that how you set a user up as far as their profile determines what they can do. That's the key word. So what can I do in Salesforce is going to be limited based on my profile. What I can see is the difference between a profile and a role. So profile is what you can do, and a role is what you can see. Roles determine what users can see in Salesforce based on where they are located in the role hierarchy. Okay, we already read that. So let's preface this by giving an example. So if you work at a car dealership and you want your sales reps to, when they log into Salesforce, you want them to see a specific set of reports on their homepage. You only want them to have certain options on their navigational bar. You're going to give them the sales rep role. Okay. And then transversely for a profile in that same example, if you want them to only be able to create contacts and sales opportunities, you give them a specific role. Either it's a role that Salesforce has created for you, or you can customize a role that fits your company's needs. Okay? So that is the difference in those two. So you have you should by now have your org already launched, already created. And afterwards, I'll have you come back to this org and do some practice. But I am going to show you here inside of one of my sandboxes. Here. Okay. So a sandbox is pretty much just like a org, that a playground. It's going to be outside of your production, so you're not kind of playing around with data inside of your live org in your company. You can come out into your playground or quote unquote sandbox and test things and try things out. So that's why it says sandbox. So I want to walk through some super basics when it comes to user management. The first thing we're going to do is add a new user. So you would come here to setup in your Salesforce org. Setup is going to take you to the back end. You would click on users. Click on users again. And just hit new user. So let's just name her Jane Doe. Let's give her Jane. Let's give her an email address. The system will automatically update her username, which is the email address also, and nickname, something you never need to use. You can put titles in here, company, department, division, so on and so forth as needed. But let's take a look at specifically what we were talking about, profile and role. We want her to have a profile for a sales rep, so we are going to give her new truck sales representative, okay? We also want her to have a role specific to her region and job function. So let's say that she's a Houston new trucks sales rep, okay? And depending on how much detail your company wants you to have in here, you can enter certain information, depending on what roles are important to your company. 9 times out of 10, unless you're with a company who is super, super, super brand new to Salesforce, a lot of this information is already going to be taken care of for you. So there's not a lot of guesswork. But you put in any pertinent information that you want to. I always say uncheck this button here. This says generate new password. This causes a little bit of static when it comes to the email that goes out to the user. I'll show you how to actually send a password reset, but for best practices, I never send the password upon immediately creating the user. It may be for multiple reasons. Maybe your company just hired Jane and they want her to have a license, but they don't necessarily want her to get that password right away. So just as a matter of best practice, I always uncheck that when I create a new user. So we're going to save it. And then later, when we want her to get the actual password, we're going to hit this button, reset password. And that is going to send an email to Jane to set up her password and log into Salesforce for the first time. Okay. Also, something super easy we're going to do is look at how to deactivate a user. So let's say Jane leaves the company. You get an email from HR or from her manager saying that she's left the company. It's as simple as, actually, let's go back to, let's say you're back over here on the sales side, and you get an email saying that Jane has left the company. You can just type in Jane Doe, click on her user page, click on her user detail, edit, uncheck this active box, and save. Okay, and save again. And you have successfully deactivated her. All right. So also I want to show you the differences in what a person can see based on profile. So we know that Jane Doe is a sales rep, and this is her profile. Based on the type of Salesforce license you have, you will be able to log in as your users to see what they see. So let's see what Jane sees when she logs into Salesforce. Let's log in. All right. So she has a set of items across the top. She has a specific dashboard here called My Opportunities. She has sales assistants and reports left and right, dashboards. She has a place down here where she can see the chatter feed, so on and so forth. Okay. Now, if we were to log out as Jane Doe and log in as, let's say, her manager, for example. Let's see here. And actually, we want to use a different sandbox. Move us out of that one. Hold on just a second. We want to use a different sandbox. Let me do it from there. Hold on just a sec. Let's go back to the sandbox. As an administrator, you'll have several sandboxes. This is one that I prefer for training purposes. Let's get back in here. All right, so we saw what it looked like for Jane Doe when she logged in. Let's log in as a manager. Let's log in as Bob. So we just type in his name, go to his user detail page. And remember, she had a specific dashboard on her homepage that said My Opportunity Management. And as you can see, his profile is different. His profile is a new trucks sales manager. Let's log in as him. All right. And if you notice, he has a different dashboard. He has generally the same navigational items here. Lots of different, of course, activity dashboards, things that a sales rep would not see. And this, I wanted to just demonstrate to you what we mean by what a person can see and do, and how the profile of that person drives what they can see and do. On future lessons, we'll go through how to actually build what a person sees here on this homepage, what they see here on the navigational bar, their level of access to different records, who can see each other's records and who can't. We'll talk about that on future lessons, but for right now, I only want to simply show you how to create your own org in the Trailhead so that you can have a place to come and practice. So if you're looking at your org that you just created, you can click on Launch. Okay, and you're going to land at a page like this. This says welcome. It's basically trying to give you some tips on how to find your way around, but I can help you get straight to the meat and potatoes. These 9 dots here are your app launcher. Right now, you're just on the home page of your playground, but if you want to go to the actual sales platform, you click on these 9 dots, click on sales, and it's going to take you to your fictional company page here, right? And just like I did, you can pause and rewind this video. You can come back here to the settings and you can set up your own users here. Now, what you saw earlier was almost a replica of my current organization. So your selections and options for profiles and roles, they're going to be standard. We just want to stick with right now practicing on adding users, deactivating users, and sending password resets. You don't have to really get into what role you should select and so on and so forth. What I will say is when you are also setting up a new user, the question of what type of license you want them to have will always come up. I will tell you 99.9% of the time, your team will have a Salesforce license. There may be a 1% chance that you're setting them up with any of these others. That's a 1% chance. And by the time you're adding someone with something other than the Salesforce license, you're well beyond the beginner stage and you will have full understanding while you're using a different one. But 99.9% of the time, you will use a user license. So if you see here, the options are a little bit different for profile and roles. You don't see like new trucks, used trucks. That's just because these are the standard roles and the standard profiles that come with Salesforce. There's a different section in the software if you want to customize a role or create a new role. If you want to create a new profile, we'll talk about that at another date. But again, the major things I wanted you to take away from this is creating your own org so you can come in here and play around. I also wanted you to see how to add a user, deactivate a user, and reset a password. That is more than enough for today's lesson. Again, check the description and the link below. You will have all the links that you need for everything that we saw here. Again, drop down in the comments if you want to ask any questions, and I'll be more than happy to assist you. Thanks, everybody.